Also coming up next, I want you to listen to Ian in Wilton's story. He heard us talking about this idea that care home staff would have to be vaccinated if they work with residents. And for Ian, that just struck a chord. And he felt really strongly about getting in touch and sharing his thoughts on it. And you can hear why in the next few minutes. You're with BBC Radio Wiltshire. Very good afternoon to you. I'm Marie Lennon. We are together until 2 o'clock today. Now, it made the headlines yesterday. We talked about it together yesterday morning. Should you have to have a jab to be able to do your job? We talked about the news that care home staff will need to be vaccinated against COVID in order to keep working with vulnerable residents. We understand they're going to be given 16 weeks to become fully vaccinated. Otherwise, they may be redeployed or being told there's no job for them anymore. We spoke about this with Sally Rhodes. She runs a care organisation. They provide care in people's homes across Wiltshire. She was fully in favour of this and said it should even be extended out to anybody who works with people who are vulnerable.
No, it's not been mandatory. We've just, we've had one or two people who wavered, but now they've all had the vaccine. And I don't believe in going in heavy and saying you must have it, but all of our staff now have happily had the vaccine. So in our service in Marlborough, we're 100%, vaccinated. And it gives the clients as well. The clients are actually asking us if we've been vaccinated, so it actually gives them confidence as well.
Well, listening to all of that yesterday was Ian in Wilton. And Ian got in touch just because he wanted to share his own story of his dad. Now, this isn't easy for him to talk about. It might not be easy for you to listen to, but he really wanted to make the point that he fully believes that all care home staff should be vaccinated. His dad contracted COVID during the first lockdown whilst living in a care home. First of all, he told me about his lovely dad.
He was lovely. He was a gentle giant. He was 6'7". He had a career in the Met Police in London. He chose to prioritise his family over his career. So we'd always understood that he'd been viewed as being quite talented and could have gone further than he did in his career. But he chose to stay as a sergeant so that he could spend more time with his family. After he retired from the police, he did various other things, including managing a security force at the American Embassy up in London. So he's a man of talent, but also very gentle and kind, considerate, and very, very well loved by all his friends and his family.
Yeah, sounds like a very, very special man. At the start of the pandemic, way back at the beginning of 2020, he was living in a care home, wasn't he?
He was, that's right, yes. He'd been in there coming on for a year. Sadly, he caught COVID. A couple of weeks after he contracted that, he was taken to hospital and, he ended up dying in hospital. And, of course, back in the first wave particularly, there was no visiting allowed. He couldn't see his family. We didn't see him. The only way we could find out how he was doing was by phoning the hospital wards. And obviously the staff were absolutely inundated with patients and similar requests. So we were getting very mixed and sporadic messages about how he was doing, and then we found out he passed away. So it was a very sad end to a lovely man's life, really. There's no criticism implied with any of the care he received. Everybody absolutely did the best they could, which is very sad.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because all of that, how care homes were treated and what happened in care homes is now the subject of political discussion. And how do you view all of that now? I suppose your main focus is just the fact that you're grieving your dad, really.
That's right, yes. So and I think, realistically, the only way he could have caught the disease was through the staff who did their very best. As I said, it was the first wave, so this is new to everybody. But people did the very best they could with the information and the equipment they had to hand. But the care home was locked down very diligently from very early on. So the only people going in and out were the staff. So that is the only way it could have got in there. And again, I'm not criticising anybody when I say that. It's just how it was. And of course, there were no vaccinations, so there was no alternative to that, really. The staff had to go in and out to go home and finish their work and spend time with their families. They couldn't help that. But now we've got the vaccines, I think the justification for everybody being mandated to have a vaccination if they're going to work in the care home context, I think it's really compelling. I feel it would really be a shame if people weren't all required to be vaccinated to avoid that sort of thing happening.
And I suppose also, a very compelling argument is hearing from people like you who've can actually talk about what this is and what it means for a family.
Yes, that's right. So, I mean, hopefully this will be helpful. Obviously, it's not an easy thing to talk about, but yes, we've been through it and we've seen how it can take a man who would otherwise still be with us and who's given his life to both his family and many other people, just taken and having to die in isolation, probably struggling for breath, not clear what was going on really, probably very confused by the whole thing. And my dad wasn't alone in that. Thousands of other people have suffered the same end, and if we can do anything to prevent that, I think that's good.
That's Ian in Wilton. As you heard there, he feels really strongly that, yes, all care home staff should have the vaccination. It's not their fault what happened in homes last year, but now there's the chance. It just should be part of the role. He was talking there about his dad. You're with BBC Radio Wiltshire.